And everyone, welcome to Magic Pod Squad. This podcast is brought to you by Kia, official vehicle of the Orlando Magic, and Mike Miller joining us now. And 17 years in the NBA, his first 2.5 right here in City Beautiful. But Mike, I got to ask you, as you look at my background and then you look at George's, like, would you notice that there's a noticeable difference in pictures and frames?
Wait a second now. That's not, I'm on the road. I'm in Atlanta. The team's in Atlanta. I'm on the road. I have the luxury of like bringing my decor with me and stuff. Come on, take a break. Just trying to find not a thermostat or something in the background.
But he did a nice job. He did a nice job framing it, didn't he?
I did. It looks like
yes, he
right,
did.
Mike? Come on.
Beautiful space over there. Beautiful space.
Well, Mike, we got a lot to get to. We understand you got a relationship with RJ Hampton. We'd love to touch on that. Your time in City Beautiful, but I think you got to let everybody know. I mean, most of us know you're coaching now. You just came off a state championship, right, at Houston High School. You just coached your son, who's going to Creighton. I mean, and you got another son who's going to be a junior. How much fun was this year for you, and how much do you enjoy coaching?
And that just means we're old as hell, by the way, because I remember when he was born.
Yes, it does.
Born. That's how crazy this is.
Yeah, it goes fast. But this year was awesome. Obviously, coaching high school is different. Seemed like it was going to be easy when I started, but nothing ever is the way it seems. Coaching your kids is way more difficult than people think. But I had a lot of great kids, a lot of fun this year, and we were able to win a state championship for them, which is most importantly. They get to walk away, on top, which is fun.
Mike, have you coached them some parents like to get out as they're getting older. I mean, obviously it's different for you. You're an NBA player. You have just this vast knowledge that the most, normal dads like me and Dante don't have. So we want to get out when they get older to try to just kind of sit back and let somebody else take care of them. Was that a different thought process for you?
There's different ways, obviously, to do everything. I basically stayed out while they were growing up. I never wanted to push them to do anything. I wanted to participate, be around sports. Obviously being, that I played 17 years and played on some really high profile teams, they were going to fall in love with the game no matter what. It's just the nature of the beast. So I stayed away from it at that point. And then when they asked me to do the high school coaching thing, my kids were the first ones I asked, you sure you guys want me to do this? Because, it's difficult. It's hard. So, I want them to have different voices, basketball voices. I don't want it just to be me. I want them to learn from other people. But my philosophy and my thing was let them learn and hear voices all the way through. And then, I was able to coach them their last year, Mason's last year and Maverick sophomore year. So it was a lot of fun.
Mike, my daughters are 6 and 7, and I'm coaching them, and my instruction is for everyone to get them the basketball. That says the dad.
That's right.
Olivia's open. She's open all the time.
You guys are missing her. I don't know how you're missing her.
Yeah.
But you can't do that, can you? For you in your position, how you mentioned how challenging it is. How tough is it coaching Mason and Maverick?
It was difficult because I was probably harder on them than I was on anybody else. And you have coaching eyes and you have dad eyes. So you're watching them more than anybody else in practice. The hardest thing for anybody to do is revert back to when I was 16, 17, 18 years old, or when you were, because, I was fortunate enough to play with some of the best players in the world. So you've seen things be done way easier. And so you're like, why can't you guys understand this? And so, coaching, that's one of the biggest things I had to do when I went back to college coaching was you assume that they know stuff, but they don't. And so when I got into high school coaching, it was for the seniors on this team, because when I was there at Memphis coaching, the ones that had been coached well and been told no and not just let them do whatever they wanted were further along than anybody else. And so when I took that job, it was for those seniors to really get them ready for college experience, win, lose, or draw. And so, coaching your kids, you always want to say, hey man, give them the ball. Believe me, I know what you're feeling, but you can't do it. And that's what makes it difficult.
I would think so.
How much did you help Mason? I'm sure you were there every step of the way with his college X and what to look for and what to not look for.
Yeah.
How was that for you going through it as a dad as opposed to the athlete?
Yeah, so I've been through it as an athlete, and I also did it as a college coach recruiting. So, it was hard for them to play the game with me. But but very similar to what I did with the bat, I let them kind of go through the situation, and they lean on me for a lot basketball. So when we had the conversation, it's not about brand, it's not about anything like that. It's about what fits your game. And I think that's the one thing I want to tell these kids when they're coming through high school is there's a lot of great programs out there with a lot of great coaches, but who are you? What are you good at? And does it fit your system? Because a lot of those guys talk about how they're going to change and do this and do that, but everyone knows as human beings, especially the older you get, like when things go wrong, you revert back to what you know. So you can want to change all you want. So when I was doing it with Mason, it's like, okay, be honest with yourself. Who are you? What are you great at? And does that system and that coaching style fit you? If it does, it's a great spot. And then you build that relationship with them. And so Creighton and Coach McDermott and Coach Huss over there were awesome for him. So it just was an easy fit.
What are so when you were at Memphis, when you're in high school now in Tennessee, what are some of your go-to stories? I know, there's high school guys that I played with that my daughters have no idea who they are, but you can say, this is what LeBron James liked. This is what Pau Gasol, like you have all, this is what Tracy McGrady liked. What are some of your go-to teachable stories that you use with some of these kids?
It's not even so much the stories, it's more along the lines of, the validation. And so, as long as you're true to who you are and speak facts, they have to, I'm still young enough to where they know me a little bit. Yeah. I'm getting close though.
You're teetering.
Yeah, I'm teetering. But obviously, as long as LeBron's going to be around, they know me as playing with LeBron, and at that point, it gives confirmation to some of the stuff I'm saying. So I don't have to go too much on the storytelling. It's more along the lines of, hey, listen, if it was good enough for LeBron to do something like this, it's dang sure good enough for you to do it. And it goes all the way down the line. I play with unbelievable players, Nikola Jokic and obviously T-Mac and Grant Hill and Pau Gasol, Marc Gasol. I play with a lot of dudes in this league. And so, being able to say that and those guys know it still definitely helped with my coaching.
Mike, do you ever look, you just rattled off all the guys that I had on my list of, just a fraction of the guys you play. Mm-hmm. Do you ever look back because I was, and I'll get to this later actually, because it's a good story. I was with you on draft night the year you drafted into the NBA. And to know where you came from in South Dakota at the Corn Palace, really and to fast forward to 2021 and just look back at your career and just go, holy crap! Like how? Just when you think about it like that, it's mind blowing.
Yeah, obviously, when you're a kid, and I know it's fun being around my kids now, is you dream about certain things and you see yourself in those things. But it doesn't matter what you think of when you get to the point where you're at and you look back at it. It's almost like, how did that happen? I played with, I can go down the line. I probably played with 20 Hall of Famers. Yeah, we didn't even mention Dwayne Wade or Chris Bosh or even in our Orlando days with Patrick Ewing and those.
Grant Hill.
So Grant Hill and T-Mac. So I play with probably 15 to 20 Hall of Famers, and to be able to do that and to be around those guys and to see what they did. And again, those are all that stuff you talk about draft day. That stuff. It's a dream come true. It really is. It's hard to even put any words to it. It really is. And they always ask you to do it, but you can't. It's a blessing. And I was fortunate enough to be around a lot of great people. And that's why I tell these guys, man, surround yourself with the right people. Some of the stuff you can't control. I was lucky enough to be drafted in Orlando. I told a story yesterday on the happy hour. It was a blessing to be there because I didn't have to do too much. And I was able to succeed because I didn't have to do too much. And I was around veteran dudes that pushed me every day and a coaching staff that was great.
How thankful are you for your time in Florida too, Mike? You played 2 years there. You went all the way to a national championship game before you came to us. How much did that kind of help prepare you? And then, how ready were you for that rookie year when you got here?
Everyone that you've seen be successful in any profession they've ever been in, it's never on your own. And so my high school coach was, rest in peace, was like a Bobby Knight. So he whooped me, like he really got on me and created a structure and a discipline that made it easier when I got to Florida. And then when Coach Donovan was there, he's obviously one of the best that's ever done it too. And so I got 2 years of that. And then you get, so he got me prepared and just being there and understanding the game through him and through his eyes and seeing different people and being around, that system and that culture. And then going in there and being with an organization like Orlando and the way Doc Rivers was with his players. So all those guys are a part of where I was. And for me to make it 17 years, I tell these kids all, it wasn't talent, you know, and it was the fact that I understood who I was. I stayed in my lane. I worked on my craft because that's what I was taught to do. I showed up every day and did my job. I was never late. Like once you start getting to year 10, 11, and 12, unless you're LeBron or one of those guys, your talent, your attitude and your personality and the way you handle yourself better be really, really good, because your talent's is not there. I don't care who you are. So, you know, to make it 17 years it's a combination of all the people that have been around my life that helped me and showed me how to be professional, really.
George, it's amazing. There's so much wisdom there. Is this the same guy that got a spider monkey when he was here?
No, it is not. It is
you mean to tell me
definitely
that
not.
wasn't smart? That wasn't wisdom in the monkey? At 19 years old, that wasn't smart?
So smart at the time. It was so.
Oh.
You got to tell everybody that's that's an all-timer, really, in Magic history. That is a great story, Mike.
Hey, at that point, the Orlando Magic said, "Did we really just waste a 5th pick on this dude?"
I remember
Hey,
when we were at practice one day and you had come into practice and you were telling everybody, and I thought you were kind of joking at first, and then all of a sudden, next thing you know, here's Sonny walk with a diaper. I'm like,
hey,
he's got a monkey.
Hey,
with a diaper.
they started entertaining trade calls the next day.
Well, why did it get away? Why did you have to let go of the monkey?
What? Because he grew up. He really
No, I'll tell you right now. We've actually entertained another one. But what happened was is they got really possessive of me and my wife Jennifer at the time, and we were just getting ready to have Mason. It was right around that time, and you know, I did a bunch of background and due diligence on it. Even at 20, I was looking at it, and it wasn't what I wanted my son to come, because you just didn't know. And so, you know, the unknown was too much, and we ended up giving him to a sanctuary. And so he lived out the rest of his days in a sanctuary somewhere.
You didn't want Ace to get rabies or anything?
No. I can tell you great stories about that monkey. Oh my.
Well, give us one. You got to give us, because people that haven't heard it, we got to hear one for fans that don't. We got to hear your best one.
The one I go to all the time is, and this is again, like people in my neighborhood probably are like, "Can you trade this guy already?" Me and my wife were going out to dinner, and we put Sonny up in his room. He had his own room. The monkey was spoiled. So, but we had 2 Great Danes at the same time. So we put the Great Danes outside, and about an hour and a half into dinner, we got a call from our neighborhood people in the neighborhood talking about our Sonny was riding our dogs around the neighborhood. So Sonny actually got his own door open, let the dogs in, and we came out. Sure enough, he was riding the dogs across the neighborhood. It was unbelievable. I was like, "Oh, these dudes are gonna kill us," but it worked out. I'm telling you right now, I'm not even lying. My friends get mad at me every day. When they were 19 or 20, my monkey was smarter than my friends. It wasn't even close. It wasn't even close.
I think a lot of us can say that about our friends. No question about it. Well, and it did end up biting you, because they did trade you a couple years later because of that.
That's right. You're exactly right. The HOA and the front office got together.
That's right. But I don't think we've talked about this enough, and I certainly haven't gotten your perspective on it. But you lived with Grant Hill. He did everything he could to get on that floor. You, T-Mac, Grant Hill, Darrell Armstrong. If you're fully healthy, what happens?
I think that the story of us in Orlando are a lot different. And you know, me and T-Mac have had this conversation multiple times, even with Grant. Is literally it was a small ball basketball before small ball basketball was even thinking about being cool. You know, I mean, we could have, because at that point you could have put Darrell at the 1, you could have played me, T-Mac, and Grant all the way up to the 4. And then you just start adding that 5-man that can, you know, put pressure on the rim and do things like that. But that would have been a special team. Now, I wasn't ready to be that guy, but to be around those guys in you know, year 2, 3, and 4, if it was Grant and T-Mac, and we were running that lineup out there. I mean, you hate to always sit here and say, you know, I went up to school uphill both ways and tell those stories, but it'd have been a lot of fun, man. And I think the story would have been different. I think we'd have been there for a long, long time. But like anything else, health is tough. And Grant fought that and fought that. It was almost sickening watching that for him because I know how bad he wanted to be out there.
Yeah, there's lots of things I look back on during my tenure with the Magic, and that is definitely one thing where, man, like Mike was young and could shoot the lights out of the ball, and Grant was Grant, at his peak.
Yeah,
T-Mac was just I mean, that team would have been really, really difficult.
Yeah, I mean,
Really
you're looking at 6'8", 6'8" across the board.
Yeah.
And T-Mac really put the league on notice that first year. It was wild how that wave happened. And then you have Grant, and their games were so perfect for each other too, because Grant really wanted to be that guy that lived in the paint, sprayed to us, and made everybody better. And T-Mac was an underrated passer, and his size and athleticism. I mean, there was, it stinks to even think about it. I'm glad y'all brought this up. Now I'm going to go run off a bridge. But no, it would have been a lot of fun. It's unfortunate it didn't work out, but that's
Mike,
that's
you
what
played,
the league's about.
You got your 2 rings though. You got your 2 rings, and you played a big part in that. So I think that hopefully that helps.
It does. It does. It makes you sleep at night a little better.
Yes.
I think Mike's sleeping just fine. Mike's just fine, despite what happened in the first time. But like, Mike, take Tracy. You played with Tracy at his best.
Yeah.
And played with LeBron at his best. What's the comparison there between Tracy and LeBron? I mean, is it
the only? I mean, obviously, the biggest difference you start looking at is just the rings, right, and longevity. I mean, T-Mac to me stays healthy. I mean, the guy's a Hall of Famer, didn't stay healthy. So, but one of the easiest cover ever in practice every day. Like, I got baptized by him every single day, and just the way he played, most underrated passer I've been around. So they both have the same kind of unique qualities. T-Mac was, and it's hard to say this because LeBron is LeBron, and he's going to end up being probably league's all-time leading scorer. T-Mac was such a natural scorer, though. You know what I mean? Like, the game was easy. Like, there's times you're like, hey man, I'm gonna go 50 tonight, and you believed him, and he did it. And then so, I think it's just, he was right there. It's just obviously, Bron winning championships and Bron, longevity, what he's doing, what LeBron James is doing right now, guys, is absolutely silly. And so, that's just who he is. That's why he's right there in the MJ conversations. But talent wise and just, sheer talent, I mean, you're hard to say anyone over T-Mac.
Right.
That's a great point. As you're hitting your 7th 3 in Game 5 against OKC, right? You're about to realize that you're going to be an NBA champion.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you went through that whole ride with LeBron down there in Miami. We were not happy as Magic fans to see the Heat win, but we were happy for you. We were happy for Richard. There were things like that who would get one as well later. But what goes through your mind as you're about to be an NBA champion, Mike? I mean,
I think all the stuff that you've done, one of the biggest reasons during free agency I went to Miami was just, I wanted to see how I'd react in those moments. I'd been able to have, at that point, I already had a pretty long career and a pretty successful career in my eyes as far as personal stuff. But I'd never been put in those situations that you've thought of as a kid. And I had opportunities to go other places that summer. But the conversation I had with my dad was, hey, listen, I can go make more money over here, but I'll never know. I don't think we'll have a chance to win over there. I'll never know if I was really built for this. And so that was the most gratifying thing, I think, for me, was that on that stage at that time, I was able to do what I did, because that's really what you want to know at any profession, is when it gets down to like, when they call on you, or when you need it, it doesn't matter your job or whatever you're doing, can you deliver? And so I was able to do that at a very high level at a very meaningful time, which, to me is probably the most gratifying thing I've ever done in my career.
And was it just getting to the next time when you just lost your shoe and now you're just shooting one sneaker on? It's just so easy now at this point for me. Yeah, let me try it with one shoe and let me see. Like,
gee, I've been lucky my whole life, man. I just closed my eyes and just prayed. That's all that was.
No, we knew that was going in for sure. We knew that one was going in.
Mike, I got to ask you this. There's a lot of guys in today's NBA that think they can shoot, right? We hear 3-and-D guys. 17-year career, George. At the end of it, he shot 41% from 3. That's a shooter. That's for an entire. Some guys
That's pretty
might,
good
some,
from what I can.
some guys might have that in a year, and that's a great year.
Yeah.
Do you think there's not a lot of shooters? I just want to get your thought on today. You see a lot of these threes go up. My opinion, a lot of guys probably shouldn't be taking them. So
Yeah.
it's twofold. Do you think that too? And what would you have done in today's game, the way you shoot the three?
Let me tell you,
He'd have shot 48%.
I'd give anything to play in this style of basketball right now. I think, you know, they're obviously the game has changed. It always is going to. But analytically, they look at it so much now as, and Hubie Brown, who, again, I talk about all the great players I play with. I played for some of the best coaches in the world. So Hubie Brown was before his time, and he would always speak on it. Is basically, you shoot 33 from three, it's like shooting 50 from the field. So the only difference is now this day and age, the last 5 to 10 years, is they've actually taken that and ran with it, and that's what they believe in.
Right.
I'll never forget me and Ray Allen sitting in the locker room talking about it, and we're doing a scouting report. And I won't mention the guy's name because I ain't gonna do that. But you're getting ready to watch him, and they're like, "Hey, make sure we run him off the line. He's a red dude. He's a hot guy. Whatever you want to call him." And me and Ray looked at each other and said, he's shooting 8.5 a game, 8.5 threes a game. He's shooting 33 from three. If we did that when we first came in, you wouldn't even think about shooting a ball. You know what I mean? Like my first 7-8 years in the league, and I'm glad the game's going like this because it's actually enjoying and fun to watch. Yes. Now some people need to tone it down a bit, but it's one of those things where, like, when we first came in, if you weren't a 38 to 40% 3-point shooter, you weren't shooting more than 2 a game.
And is that what it was about 38, 40? You had to be.
I mean, you weren't considered a shooter, believe me. They were like, self-check kind of deal. You know what I mean? Like, you go ahead and shoot. And that's just, but the game has changed, right? Back then it was the first to 90 wins. Now in the playoffs, it's the first to $115. If you can't score 115 points, you can't win a playoff game. So, it's a different game. It's fun to watch, but yeah, I mean, I would love to play in this game now because I'd be a 4-man.
That's right. Exactly.
I'd be picking and popping, and it'd be fun.
Think about 38% now get you $250 million.
No question.
38%.
There'd be no conversation. There'd be no conversations with your dad at that point. By the way.
Exactly. Right. Believe me, I've already cussed him out. But and it's not that, because I'm glad the game has gone to where it is. Right. I don't want to sound like one of those guys that retired and been like, hey, I would have done this, and this, because the game, the talent is getting crazy. Like, these guys are getting better and better and better and better, and their skills are getting better and better. But it's literally one of those things, like, you average 15, 16 a game 10, 15 years ago, it'd be like averaging 26 right now. Because there's just more points, more possessions, but these kids can handle it too. So you give them credit. Like, for a guy to go out there and do, like, what Steph's doing right now is absolutely absurd. I mean, I think he had his 4th in 5 games, and he's had 10 plus threes already, or 5 times this year. I mean, that's ridiculous. Right? What are we talking about?
But it's not
the fact that he can get 17 of them up still is amazing. Like,
right.
Dude's a man. He's awesome.
It certainly is. Mike, I want to circle it back to this current Magic team. There's a guy on this roster that you're close with, or you've gotten to know, and RJ Hampton. How did that relationship come about? And I appreciate the insight you gave me. I was able to tell it on the telecast. It created a lot of excitement here in Orlando. But your idea of RJ, kind of kid he is, and how special can he be here?
Well, obviously, I was fortunate enough to meet him when he was a sophomore in high school. So when I was coaching here at Memphis, you go out and you recruit these kids, you get to know him and his family very, very well. That's just part of the business, and it was a lot of fun for me. And when he came back from Australia, New Zealand last summer, they reached out and wanted to get in the gym. And one, that's out of respect for him. That's why I fell in love with him as a kid, because a lot of kids, it's hard to search out and to find somebody and be like, and not only that, but identify what you really want to work on. The hardest thing in anything for these young kids is being honest with yourself. Okay, because everyone thinks, we just talked about it, everyone thinks they're a shooter, or everyone thinks they're this, and that's what gets them to that level. That's the mindset you have to have. But to reach out, want to get in the gym, and to drive 6 hours and stay for a week, and then drive 6 hours back and continually do that, that's when the grind is real. Like, that's when you're committed to something. And so I knew at that point that this was a kid I wanted to be around and help, because he's willing to put in the work, and he's going to be a special, special talent. And I'm telling you, it's going to be one of those things where you redo the draft in, 15 years, or however they do it, 10 years, and they talk about he'd have went here, and he'd been a lot higher than where he was, because I know who he is as a kid and how hard he works. And he's got 2 or 3 things I told you about that only
Yeah.
God can give you. It don't matter how hard you work. So he already had that foundation built in. And, and the way the game is going with his speed and athleticism and the multiple positions and being able to do all that stuff, creativity, he's just going to be a stud in this league. And it's going to be fun to watch him grow.
So will you continue to this come this summer, Mike? Will like when the season ends, will he come back and work with you, or how will that work? I'm hoping the answer is yes.
Yeah, the answer is yes. And it's going to be, he's going to have to spend a lot of time in Orlando, because I think that's the biggest thing. I really do. I'm big on that. And when they ask me that question, your home is Orlando now. That's where he needs to stay.
Good.
Because it's just like with the trade, it's hard. It's hard for the coaching staff. It's hard for all the players. When you insert young talent at trade deadline, you don't know what you have and you don't know how to use it yet. And so, and vice versa, the kid doesn't know who he is yet or how he wants to be used in the system. So he needs to be there and get work with that staff, because the reason the NBA is where it's at is because they're the best development guys in the business. And so they need to continue to develop them. But to answer your question, G, like, yes, I'll be there doing a lot of that stuff, because the shooting thing is what I do. And a lot of that just has to do with repetition and foundation and confidence. And those are the things I can really, really help them with.
It's interesting, Mike, and you said it to me when we texted, but let Magic fans know the foundations are there. He's got a nice shot, doesn't he? Do you
Yep.
like where he's at, and what are some of the things that you'll be working with him on?
Well, the biggest thing there is now repping it and then building that confidence, because as a young kid, the hardest thing, I was there, you know what I mean? When you miss a couple shots, something's wrong. No, nothing's wrong. Nothing's wrong. We just got to continue to build on what we have. And so when we got him down, and when I started working with him, all I did was simplify things. I moved it around. He had a lot of movement in his shot at the time. Now it's really, really tight. And now you can repeat it. Now, if I can do that 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 times, and I can repeat the same thing over and over again, I'm going to be a great shooter. That's just the way it works. If you put the time in, you have the foundation. Those are the only things I always look at. Where's your foundation at? And are you willing to work? If you're doing it, I can't ever go out there and say, hey man, I'm going to have a 40-inch vertical. I can't say I'm going to be out there and be the fastest dude on the floor. He has those. But what I can say is that I'm going to be a great shooter, because that's just time and work. That's effort and just knowing how to work. And so, I didn't want to do anything but simplify it. And once you simplify the jump shot, you can do it over and over and over again. And that's why I know he's going to be a 40% three-point shooter when I'm done with him. It's going to be awesome.
That's awesome. That's great to hear. You're so
That
right.
makes me feel good.
With putting in the work and having the commitment and all that. You give me that and we can build on that.
That's right.
I'm sure you instill a lot of that. When you come to Orlando, can we take you out golfing? Can we do that?
You know what? First of all, I love that. I've resorted to an absolute simulator golfer, because my kids take up all my time now. I literally play play simulation golf. Like I go out and play on the simulator. I open up a restaurant here in Memphis called Let It Fly Sports Bar, and we put simulators in it. And so now when I have some time, instead of going 4 hours, I go and play around at Pebble Beach in an hour and 15 minutes, and I call it a day.
Awesome. Yeah, smart.
But to answer your question, I would love to get out there. I haven't played real golf in almost a year.
Is that right?
If you like smacking it around about 110 times, then you're in the right pairing. You're in the right pairing. No problem.
You're in the right grouping.
Dante, this is the guy. Listen, this is the guy on draft night, and Mike might not remember this, but I tell this story all the time. Mike's, the skinny kid. This is back when we had to have a representative at the draft on the phone. Yeah. Like people. I had to write the card and send it in, all that stuff. And then I meet Mike, and Mike's got these two enormous earrings, right? Just enormous. I'm like, wow, Mike, like you're already like. In my head, he's like, wow, this kid's already spending his cash or whatever, right? Do you remember what you said to me?
Those are cubic zirconia.
Yeah. I got these. They're like $8 at Claire's. These are like $8 at Claire's.
Hey, I was taught a long time ago, fake it till you make it.
That's exactly
awesome.
Right.
Yeah.
That's exactly. Oh,
they were
fantastic.
big though, G. They were big though, weren't they?
They were like out to here. I'm like, damn, Mike's got some big diamond earrings on. He looks at me and he goes, $8 at Claire's. No problem. $8.
Oh, that's fantastic.
I'll get you a pair, G. You can wear them.
Yeah.
Hey, so who did you have less expectations of when you first met them? Nikola Jokic when he walked into his first practice, or George when you first met him?
both similar in their professions. I was like, I looked at both of them and said, how'd you get here? Well, hey, G, but gee, think it. Fast forward now, you're both legends. You know what I mean? Like you both,
That's-
you've proven how you got there.
I'm a
That's
proven
exactly right.
commodity. That's
He's
right.
he's not afraid to put in the work. That's right.
That's right.
Now we got to get you that. Is it too late for him to get those earrings? I don't
No, I'm
think
gonna send him a
No.
pair. I'm gonna send him a pair.
so.
Hey, here's the problem. Shipping's gonna cost more than the earrings.
That's right. Oh man, well, this
yeah.
is great. Well, Mike, we appreciate it. Please, when you come to Orlando, even if it's just, we'll find you a simulator. Let's catch up.
Oh,
when
thank
come
you.
down to Orlando
Thank you.
And we'll make it happen. Keep up the great work. Nothing but the best of success. And you're gonna have less time. You got to go to Creighton now. You're gonna
That's
be
right.
going to
That's right.
Orlando, right?
That's
You're
right.
gonna be all over
That's
the
right.
place.
No
I love it.
time.
I
No
love it.
time.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate y'all.
Keep
Keep holding
doing
it
it.
down
Mike.
down there in Orlando. Hey,
All
listen,
right.
if you can make it through me for 2.5 years, you guys are this is easy.
Please. You were
Remember he,
my problems.
remember he came in with the scratches on and said, yeah, I had to get rid of the monkey. I had to get
I'll talk to y'all later, man. Appreciate y'all.
All right,
See you guys.
Mike.
Thanks so much. And this podcast was brought to you by Kia, official vehicle of the Orlando Magic. And George, we've not done this before, but I just think there's a lot to unpack there with Mike Miller. I thought that was astounding. We gotta talk to him more often, first of all.
Yeah.
He's got a lot going on. He's successful. He just laid it all out. He's successful, everything that he's done everywhere he's been. But the stories are great. We can go down memory lane, but I think Magic fans are going to be excited hearing that about RJ Hampton, first and foremost. And, just obviously the stellar career that he's had. But I think a guy like that, with his pedigree and his success and his work ethic, now has the ear of RJ Hampton. I think that's I think Magic fans will find that very interesting.
Yeah, I can't think of a better pro. If you had to line somebody up with a young player, who to model your game after, who to learn after.
Yeah.
There's nobody when you look at it, look at Mike's career, 17
Yeah.
years in the NBA, which is a long
Mhm.
time. Successful, won Rookie of the Year, Sixth Man of the Year, two-time
Right.
champion, knows the right way to do things. RJ's future is in very good hands if he's going to stay connected with Mike Miller. There's no doubt about
No question about it. He'll be here. And again, he'll have a great time with this staff as well. And he'll do everything. Like Mike said, you're there, you work with that staff. The NBA is the best in the world at developing people, so he'll work with the staff on hand too here.
it. Listen,
on Orlando.
just that alone,
Yeah,
for Mike to encourage RJ
that's a
to
good point. Yeah, right.
you don't get that with other people. They want them to come to them. They will go do this in your hometown. Like Mike knows what it takes to be successful. And that's just it sounds like a very small thing, but that's a huge thing. Having
Sure.
RJ stay in town to work with our players as opposed to scattering. So I think that's nothing but good news for Magic fans, for the Magic organization, and for RJ.
Do you like the guy that showed up with those cubic zirconia earrings, a spider monkey? His nickname was Spanky, right here.
Yep.
Do you like that? That's the guy molding these impressionable young minds. I think it's awesome. He has,
You know what?
he has really, really, he has learned so much, and he really is. He's very resourceful, and he's so wise with everything he's learned.
And he's grounded, and that
Yes.
the earring
Right.
story alone tells you, listen,
Yes.
he's
Right.
a grounded guy. Like, I'm not going to
Yeah.
go spend $5,000 on a pair of earrings. Like,
Right.
why, when they look exactly like the ones that you have on your ear,
Yep.
probably did cost $5,000.
Yep.
Fake it till I make it. And he knows what it takes. Like, the guy knows what it takes. He's built a fabulous career. He's built a good life. He's got, his kid. I mean, look at his sons now are high school stars. He's got a daughter too that, just
Yes. Right.
awesome, just an awesome family, awesome guy. Yeah. I'm fine with that guy
Exactly.
being the role model, for these guys that are just coming in now. I'm 100% behind it.
I love it. He's fantastic, and he's so successful, and he's great to talk to and grounded, as you said. Last thing, when you think about his years here, right? 2000
Yeah.
to 2003, 2.5 seasons before he was traded for Drew Gooden. But he's right, man. When you think about if you had a healthy Grant, I never really laid it out that way. You
Yeah.
have Daryl, and then you're 6'8" across the board until
Yeah.
whatever center you want to put out there. And he's
Yeah.
right. He probably wasn't ready for that in year 1, 2, or even 3, but he would have been had Grant been able to stay healthy. Again, just another example of what could have been, and through no fault of anybody's, just what could have been.
No, listen, like that team was built to win it. And it just
Yeah.
happened. Like, Grant got hurt, and there's really, you ask 30 other teams around the league, would you have signed Grant Hill for that?
Absolutely.
Answer,
Absolutely.
years and money. And the answer is yes. It's 100%. There's not a GM on the planet that would not have signed Grant Hill and brought him to Orlando. I mean, or brought them to your team. You just, 100% is the answer. So listen, things, you know, you don't win them on paper, right? You just got to go games and things happen. And yeah, that's a time where you look back and you're just like, damn, like, and no teams were doing that then. There were no teams that had 3, 6'8", 6'9" guys that could play the way that those three could. Even Mike at a young age, you know, as a rookie, like, he was still one of the best shooters, you know, in the NBA. He just, yeah, that would have been a really, really difficult team to deal with if all the, you know, Gabe had it right. There's the bottom.
That's the thing. That's the thing. He had it right. No question. All right, George, this was fun. We'll do it again here soon.
Sounds good, buddy.